That just sounds like a freaking good time. I would not be reading this on the bus, let me just tell you that much. That might be the reason that I love it. It's basically just like a whole book of like watching people suffer. I might have to like Clockwork Orange my eyes open to like finish it. Get as trashy as you'd like. Hi, I'm Sam. I would say there's quite literally no one asking me to do this, but there is someone asking me to do this. The incomparable Criminale invited me to be a host for this year's GARBAugust, which is a readathon dedicated to getting people to read more trash. Obviously, it's very subjective, and one man's trash is another man's treasure. I think the whole point of this readathon, and readathons in general, is to just get people to read more, and maybe read stuff that's outside of their wheelhouse. So this readathon definitely pushed me to choose books that I wouldn't have normally picked up, but I am still very excited to pick these up, and I'm excited that this readathon got those books onto my radar. So there are a couple ways you can participate in GARBAugust if you are so inclined. One way is to follow along the themed weeks. Week 1 is category romance or men's adventure. Week 2 is paperbacks from hell or vintage smut. Week 3 is novelizations, so novelizations of movies or video games or TV shows or books written by famous people. And then week 4 is anything goes, so you could literally read anything, get as trashy as you'd like. The second way that you can participate in the readathon is to follow along with the bingo card. I personally just used the bingo card to construct my TBR, so today I thought it would just be fun for me to share the TBR that I've built based on these prompts to make August as trashy as possible. Okay, so up front, I did not select specific books for 4 of the prompts because they're pretty self-explanatory. So Jackie Collins, Richard Lehman, Jilly Cooper, and V.C. Andrews are authors that are notorious for writing and publishing trashy novels, or novels that are now known as pretty trashy. So I haven't chosen specific books for those. Whichever of their books speaks to you, you can choose for those spaces in the bingo card. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is Book with Killer Kids. And for this I have chosen Suffer the Children by Craig Dilouie. Okay, so this is technically an apocalyptic fiction novel where a disease comes and kills all children on Earth, but then shortly thereafter they come back from the dead and crave human blood. So I'm excited that this readathon has pushed me to put this on my TBR because this is one that has been on my radar for a while and it's supposed to be really good. So really high hopes for this one. Okay, the next prompt is Sexy Vamp Book. So if you have been watching my videos for a while, you know that I don't read a ton of romance. I read some webtoons that are more romance, but for the most part, my novels, not super romantic. So for this, I had to kind of enlist the help of some of my friends and my sister who reads romance. So for the Sexy Vamp book, I've chosen Crave by Tracy Wolff. This is pretty much just a vampire romance that happens at this academy, so there's going to be like dark academia vibes too. My whole world changed when I stepped inside the academy. Nothing is right about this place or the other students in it. Here I am, a mere mortal among gods. Or monsters. I still can't decide which of these warring factions I belong to, if I belong at all. I only know the one thing that unites them is their hatred of me. Then there's Jackson Vega, a vampire with deadly secrets who hasn't felt anything for 100 years. But there's something about him that calls to me, something broken in him that somehow fits with what's broken in me, which could spell death for us all. So yeah, that sounds like a pretty trashy romance to me. So I'm very pleased with that pick, and I obviously don't have super high hopes for that because I don't think I'm really the target demographic for this, but hey, who knows? Crave by Tracy Wolff could be my best book of the year. You never know. Okay, next is a dirty book. So this could be obviously interpreted in a couple different ways, but I think a lot of people are going the romance route for this, but you know I had to kind of flip the prompt on its head a little bit. So I'm going with Ultra-Gash Inferno by Suehiro Maruo. And this also fits the prompt of book from a weirdly specific subgenre because Suehiro Maruo is one of the pillars of the subgenre of manga called eroguro, and eroguro basically means erotic, grotesque manga. So it's going to contain a lot of body horror, sexual themes, but just like to the nth degree, over the top, crazy stuff. So I think I could actually like this quite a bit because obviously I like weird, spooky manga, and I think it's going to be pretty gross. So it's my dirty book. Okay, next is a shifter romance, which I'm kind of being a little liberal with the meaning of shifter. I'm also going to include monster romance in this. And one monster romance that I see people talking about all the time is Ice Planet Barbarians. And this also fits the prompt of book you'd be ashamed to read in public. I would not be reading this on the bus, let me just tell you that much. So this is by Ruby Dixon. You'd think being abducted by aliens would be the worst thing that could happen to me. And you'd be wrong, because now the aliens are having ship trouble and they've left their cargo of human women, including me, on an ice planet. And the only native inhabitant I've met, he's big, horned, blue, and really has a thing for me. Yeah. I think this is going to be one of the toughest ones to get through because really not my typical thing, but it's only 180 pages. I might have to like Clockwork Orange my eyes open to like finish it, but I'm going to try and get it done. Okay, and then next is a book with nudity on the cover. So for that, I have chosen The Sluts by Dennis Cooper. I think a lot of you are going to be like, Sam, that's not trash. And you know, you're probably right. However, I think this is supposed to contain really extreme themes of violence and sex. So again, I write my own rules and I wanted to choose this. Another thing that you guys might disagree with is that I think that this could fit the prompt of a book with a cigarette ad, because I had a heck of a time trying to find a book that actually had a cigarette ad inside of it. So this, I'm counting as a cigarette ad because he's like, ooh, look at me, I'm so hot and cool and I smoke and that makes me cool. It might be a stretch, but I'm counting it. So this is set on the pages of a website where gay male escorts are reviewed by their clients. And the book is told through their postings, emails, and conversations. So yeah, I think we're following a bunch of gay male escorts through their sexy, violent escapades. Next is a book about gangs. And for this, I had to go to the YouTube channel Biblio Obscura. So that is Twittering Birds Never Fly by Kou Yoneda. And this is a boys love manga series. And we follow Yashiro. He's like a CEO, but it's, you know, he has like lackeys and they're basically like a gang. Very like Yakuza coded, you know? And he leads a double life as a deviant and a masochist. And then this guy Chikara comes to work as a bodyguard for him. And Yashiro, I guess, has this rule where he's like, men who work for me, I like am not gonna touch them. But when Chikara comes in, he's like, ooh, I can't resist. Yashiro makes advances towards Chikara, but Chikara has mysterious reasons for denying. So I think it's gonna be very like boys love, gang love, crime manga, which I think I could like, because if it's like dark twisted romance like Killing Stalking, I actually really love that. It's like not real romance, it's like this really abusive, horrible relationship. So I am reading that for the gang prompt. And then next is a book with Satanists. I think the one I chose technically isn't super trashy, but it's one I really want to read, so I'm including it. So that is Now You're One of Us by Asa Nonami. And again, I don't even know if this is technically about Satanists, but it's for sure culty and like a dark cult. So I'm kind of assuming it's Satanists. This is about a woman who marries this guy, and when she's sort of like introduced into the family has this huge estate, and there's 4 generations of people living in this estate. And the new bride comes to live on the estate. And at first she's like, oh yeah, this is all like super cool, everyone's really nice, whatever. And then I think the more time she spends there and with the different members, she's like, oh, something's not right here. So I've heard this is really disturbing, so I'm thinking it's trashy in that it's really extremely gratuitously violent. Next is a book about a conspiracy theory. So for this, I struggled, but then I was like, okay, Sam, think about conspiracy theories that are actually pretty interesting to you. And for some reason, the movie The Fourth Kind popped into my head because I just think that that's really scary. If an alien encounter really happened to you, it would be almost impossible to get people to actually believe you. And I think that's what's scary to me, is not being able to convince other people that your reality is real. So for this, I just literally Googled like conspiracy theory books similar to The Fourth Kind. And of course, what popped up is Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind by CDB Bryan. So this is the most concrete book yet on the subject of UFOs. At the center of this serious, richly explicit, riveting work is a 5-day UFO conference held at MIT, which the author attended and from which he has recreated the accounts of close encounter experiences of many abductees, telling their stories in chilling detail. We'll see if I'm converted and if I start wearing like a tinfoil hat after this. You never know. Okay, next is a vigilante book. For this, I chose the horror novel Crota by ゚МOՂᵃℎ. And I think this is kind of like a monster horror, but the reason I put it into vigilante is because I think the main group of people we're following are kind of just these like ragtag people who aren't under any official jurisdiction, and they're just kind of like trying to get justice against this monster. Yeah, so a group of hand-picked hunters stalks a killer, what the local Missouri Native Americans call Crota, a mythical beast leaving a trail of mutilated bodies behind as it grows in power and returns to an underground labyrinth containing an unthinkable horror. So I'm actually pretty excited for this one. I think this one could be really good, and I have high hopes. Okay, next, in lieu of a free space, we have dedicated the space to Pax, and in order to honor her, we have opted to make this space either reading a book that has green on the cover, because that was obviously her favorite color, or reading a book that she read last year for the GARBAugust readathon. So I went back and looked through her videos, and one that really stuck out to me was Satan's Manor by Mark Andrews, and it's mostly because she likened the main characters and their sort of stupid decisions to The Kids in the Ruins by Scott Smith, and I love The Ruins, so I think I kind of like when the characters are dumb and make dumb mistakes. It's basically just like a whole book of like watching people suffer. I don't know what that says about me, but basically the gist of this book is that this up-and-coming actress is called and is like, hey, we're gonna film a movie at this haunted house, come along. And she's like, okay, yeah. And then I think we're following her and sort of like, yeah, the cast and crew going through this spooky haunted house. So I think this is gonna be like a silly, goofy, spooky time. And although Pax didn't love it because she was annoyed by the main characters making stupid decisions, that might be the reason that I love it. Next is a book based on a video game. So this one I kind of just thought of like, okay, what are video games I like? And one that obviously I have always loved, and I really like the movie adaptation of it, is Silent Hill. So I looked up just like, oh, I wonder if there are any books based on Silent Hill. And sure enough, there's a book called Silent Hill Betrayal, which is based on the Silent Hill video game series. So what really intrigues me about this is that there is a vanilla version and then sort of like the extended version. And the extended version contains all the original text of the vanilla edition, but I think it's supposed to be like even more intense, if you will. So we're following this guy named Trevor who keeps having dreams about Silent Hill, which like isn't a good sign. And then the police are following him after the apparent suicide of his wife Carolyn, and he escapes with his lover Kathy and best friend Jay, and he's being pursued by the police, and then he crashes on the outskirts of Silent Hill. When he awakens, he finds himself alone at the scene of the accident. So yeah, he's like walking through the town alone and is tainted with clues of Carolyn's presence. And it looks like Pyramid Head is in this. In the midst of the pain and the blood stands Carolyn's mysterious guardian with a metallic stained pyramid on his head, and he is ready to exact justice for their betrayal. So definitely themes of the second game in this. So yeah, I'm really excited for this. I had no idea Silent Hill had any books, so hopefully this is good and not super bad like the sequel movie. Okay, next is a book set in a hospital, and this is a book that I've had on my TBR for a while, which is Wetlands by Charlotte Roche. Wetlands is the sexually and anatomically explicit novel that is changing the conversation about female identity and sexuality around the world. So we're following this woman named Helen, who's 18 years old, and she begins her story from a hospital bed. She's recovering from an operation, lamenting her parents' divorce, and to distract herself, she ruminates on her past sexual adventures. As Helen constantly blurs the line between celebration, provocation, and dysfunction in her relationship with her body, Roche exposes the double bind of female sexuality, delivering a compulsively readable and fearlessly intimate manifesto on sex, hygiene, and the repercussions of family trauma. Another indication that this is probably pretty trashy is that it only has a 2.85 rating on Goodreads, so I think people either really like it or really hate it. Next is a killer animal book. So for this I have chosen Hound by Ken Greenhall. What are the possibilities of my strength? That is a thought I have never had before. What if some morning as the old woman stood at the head of the staircase, she were suddenly to feel a weight thrusting against the back of her legs? What if she were to lunge forward, grasping at the air, striking her thin skull against the edge of a stair? What would become of me if she were found unmoving at the bottom of the stairway? Such are the thoughts of Baxter, a sociopathic bull terrier on the hunt for the perfect master as he contemplates the demise of his first victim. So that just sounds like a freaking good time, and the cover is super cool, so I'm very, very much looking forward to this one. Next is a book that cashes in on a moral panic, and I think one of the biggest ones is sexuality in general, and how sexual beings are immoral. So I kind of wanted to lean into like a sexually disturbing or sexually deviant book. So for this I have chosen In Praise of the Stepmother. So this is a book by Maruo Vargas Llosa and translated by Helen Lane. So what I know about this book is that we're following this married couple who are very sexually open. There's kind of like no place they won't go sexually. But then I think cracks in their relationship start to form when the wife starts to form a sexual relationship with her stepson, which is obviously very sexually deviant. I think that the author is supposed to be like really well loved and his prose is supposed to be really good, so I'm really looking forward to this one. Next is a book published under a pseudonym. So for that I've chosen Mind by St. Abbey. Oh, I guess the series is called Mind. So the first book is called The Risk, and this is about a woman named Lana who I think something happens to her where it's like her whole family or like a bunch of people she loves are killed, and then she kind of like pulls a Punisher and is like, I must get revenge and kill everyone who wronged me type deal. And then she meets this guy named Logan, who I believe is a cop. I think it's like a cop investigating all of these murders that are happening that she's committing because she's like getting revenge, Punisher style. And then they run into each other and I think they fall in love and they start this erotic journey together. But I mean, come on, this cover is bad. It's so bad. So I think it's pretty trashy. And then 3 prompts I wasn't able to find things for. One of those is book with a step back cover. So that's just like a book where when you open the cover page, there's like another illustration on the inside, kind of like an alternative cover page, I think. The next one is a book with an exclamation point in the title, which is surprisingly hard to find because it's hard to search. Like book with exclamation point, nothing really comes up. And then the last one is book from a series with at least 100 entries. I couldn't tell you a single series that I know of that has 100 entries in the series, let alone one that could be considered trash. So if you have any good options for any of those prompts, definitely let me know down below. That's what I want to read in August for GARBAugust. I really want to thank Ollie for inviting me to be a host this year. I feel very honored. And yeah, I would love to know if you guys are going to be participating in GARBAugust or even just trying to read a little bit more trash in August. You don't necessarily have to do the whole readathon to read along with us or get a little trashy with us. Thank you so much for watching. You can like this video if you want, comment, subscribe if you want. I would love to have you. And definitely let me know what you're reading. What have you chosen for the different prompts? And I will see you guys in another video hopefully very soon. Okay, love you. Goodbye.